Hi, my name is Arturo O'Farrill. I'm the founder of the Afro-Latin Jazz Orchestra, the Afro-Latin Jazz Alliance, the Afro-Latin Jazz Academy, and our great youth orchestra, the Fat Afro-Latin Jazz Council. Afro-Latin jazz is an interesting creation because it's not really a creation. It's an outgrowth of African music and a mixture of jazz. But here's the thing: is that the elements which make Latin music throughout the Americas are the same elements that make what we call jazz. So Latin and jazz aren't really separate entities. For me, they're very much a part of the fabric of Africa and the kente cloth that we call the diaspora. Um, a lot of people relate Cuban and Puerto Rican rhythms to what we call Latin jazz, but the truth of the matter is that the music that was brought over from Western Africa landed in Bogota and Cuba and Lima, and wherever the diaspora ended, that's where these people brought their beautiful and incredible rich culture and rhythms, and where they mixed up with European musical practices. So really, if you think about it, Afro-Latin jazz is the jazz that occurs throughout the Americas and really is the most sincere form of this music that we call jazz. Some people want to argue that American jazz is separate from Latin jazz, but I think that if you ask Dizzy Gillespie, and if you ask Louis Armstrong, and if you ask Chano Pozo, and if you ask Tito Puente, there's only one music, and it's improvisational. It's based on the great practice of rhythmic diversity, and I think that you will find definitely that the music that we call Latin jazz is just an extension of jazz. Now, Tito Puente was very fond of saying that Latin jazz was jazz played over Latin rhythms. And I'm very fond of saying that Latin rhythms are at the root of all swing. So if you think about it, we're all part of one another. I love this music because to me, especially the music that we play, because it is the best marriage of mind, heart, and feet. Because you have to really, the big band is a tool that really reflects marching bands and European musical practice. It's a compositional element to it. The Latin rhythm section really harkens back directly to Africa, and a lot of the rhythm section instruments are direct descendants of instruments found in Western Africa. So there's that element of mind, there's that element of heart, and then of course it's danceable, so there's the element of feet. I got into this music because my father was a famous Afro-Cuban composer, and then when I kind of got the idea of continuing his traditions, I found that really the music we call Afro-Cuban jazz is much bigger. It now encompasses Panama and Colombia and Ecuador and Venezuela, and so the rhythms that used to be just mambo and cha-cha-cha now include festejo, lando, cumbia, marinera. I mean, it includes so many rhythms that we have now that it's not simple to quantify. You can't quantify it as just this or that anymore. I think that nothing is quite as impactful to a young musician as playing in an ensemble. And the bigger the ensemble, the bigger the family, the bigger need to get along with a number of your peers. And so we're talking about a big band. We're talking about 18 musicians, and that's a large family. And some of the size of some of the orchestras of the Fat Afro-Latin Jazz Captain, we have 6, 7 saxophone players, and so we really have quite a lot of people that have to get together. I reached out to these young people because I thought they were copacetic. I thought they were really capable of seamlessly integrating into each other's lives. And what I found out is that not only was I right, but they surprised me because they get along so beautifully and they have such a sense of community. It is the very best thing that we see in the big ensemble, this ability for young people to get and play different music that comes from throughout the Americas and that they can integrate into a family. Well, I'll tell you the honest truth, man. The driving force that keeps me in this music is the same reason I connected to the larger world, because for me, the cultural conversations in this nation and in the world at large seem to be very stratified. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think if you look at the reality of the human race, there's a lot of us that really don't see the strata. We don't see the divisions. We only see the possibilities that happen when you're afraid of division. when you're afraid of mixing your culture with someone else's culture or assimilating, or it's all nonsense, because you never really lose yourself in embracing someone else's culture. You actually define yourself in a stronger method. Embracing different musics, different foods, different dance, different languages. That's what life is about. And it doesn't dilute you, it actually strengthens you. And I think that for me, the opportunity to play Afro-Latin jazz and to teach it to these young people is an opportunity to show them that they don't have to be scared of strange rhythms or different approaches to jazz. That all they really need to do is examine their lives as open books that are just being written in for the first time, man. And that, I think, is part of the problem with the world. People are so busy defining themselves. This is classical, this is conservative, this is what really is the real essence of this or that. And to me, it's just more divisiveness. It's more like separation and polarization. And the truth of the matter is that people who define themselves by what they are or aren't are never as interesting as people who define themselves by what they could become if they open themselves up to other ideas, other thoughts, other influences. And to me, this music is such a beautiful picture of not just Africa and Latin America and the New World, but of the international possibilities that we have when we really, really jump into the infinite. Just Pueblo in our hearts, our heads tightly screwed on, and with an open attitude, man, we will learn so much about ourselves. We might even do some good in this world, and that's why I do what I do. There's a reason that we're gathered here today, and we're gathered here today because we're actually able to make an impact in a young person's life. The Fat Afro-Latin Jazz Cats, our residency program in the schools, I see firsthand how these programs affect young people and change their lives forever. Some of them may become professional musicians, some of them not. But every single one of them will remember the sense of kinship, the reaching out across cultural barriers. And when we put an instrument in a young person's hand, we're telling them they matter. We're telling them that they are important. When they receive instruction in that, we're telling them that their brain and their thoughts and their education and their intellect are important to us. When they play together and really become good, they are telling themselves that they have been worthy of investment and obedient, disciplined behavior that it takes to become a musician. And what a great lesson is that I'm worthy of practicing and studying and becoming great at something. And when I see it happen in a young person's life, it's transformative, and we've seen it often. We hope to see it more. And with your support and your friendship, I know we will change the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of young people in New York City.